Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. My camera's just gone a little bit out of focus, but I'm going to go with it anyway. United 6, Liverpool 0. Shout out to Chloe, by the way, the only one who got that prediction right at the weekend. And as you can see from my response, I was a bit like, 6? Really? Are you going that high? And, well, prove right. So maybe we should be listening to her a little bit more often. We've got so much to cover. We've got, obviously, the 6 goals to cover. We've got all the little bits in between the game as well. But I want to start, I guess, off the field. Record attendance, that was great to see as well. But Charlie and Jess, you were both there. I know me and Barrett have also got feelings on this as well. But Charlie, starting with you, and then Jess, you following on this. Did it feel like a United-Liverpool rivalry? Obviously, the attendance helps, having such a big crowd in there. But did it feel, what was the atmosphere kind of like in and around LSV?
Yeah, good attendance in spite of the Antiques Roadshow's best efforts that was going on at the same time. Where I was, it felt like very anti-Liverpool at the start, but they were diabolical. There was no jeopardy. There was no jeopardy for Man United, but they still absolutely put them to the sword, which is what I would want them to do. So yes and no. Like, they got a bit of a booing, Liverpool, when they came out late from half time, which I wasn't happy about. That was the only thing they did get over us, because they were rubbish. But it was nice. Like, you could feel, obviously it brought more fans in, hadn't it? Because it was Liverpool, and I think the club had started to advertise it as a bit of a double header, hadn't they? Quite late doors, as a bit of a rivalry weekend. But where I was, it was pretty good, I thought. But I'm not sure about everywhere else. You can tend to just hear where you are, can't you?
I was going to say, Jess, I know you were, when you sent me your video, Jess, you can't have been far from Charlie. You must have been like a couple of like seats apart. I don't know if you've seen each other's videos, but you must have been very close. On
Really?
Human atmosphere was similar. You're on mute, by the way, Jess, so we can't hear a word you're saying.
Really?
There we go. Let's try again. Yeah, most of the singing was sort of just behind me, so where I was really good atmosphere, to be honest. That being said, it wasn't potentially how you might think of Liverpool and United, but I think that's because there's such a huge disparity with the teams. Like Charlie was saying, that there was no jeopardy. There was at no point was there even really a clear-cut Liverpool chance. So I really enjoyed, the kind of like anti-Scouse songs and like the booing. That was just a bit of fun. And yeah, the atmosphere was good, but there was nothing really at stake necessarily, because we were just battering them basically for 90 minutes. We were just all over them. And there was at no point where I was like, oh, they're having a good bit of play here. I think at the start of the second half, they had a little bit of like a good run. But nothing to kind of get you panicked. But the attendance, I thought, was fantastic. And that did make the atmosphere.
I was just about to answer Dave, but he's John straight in there. No, go on. You carry on.
I was going to say, what I found surprising, I think we've said about United ourselves, that when they're not when they're being outplayed, you want them just to be a bit aggressive. And I thought Liverpool might just go that route a little bit, because they weren't going to beat us playing actual football. That was quite clear within 6 minutes, wasn't it? But they didn't even play dirty. They were just a bit pathetic, really. Just rolled over.
Very sort of lackluster. I think, like I said, in the second half, they kind of came out, and I thought, okay, they were sort of pressing us on the ball. Yeah. I won't say they had chances, because they didn't really, but they had, bits of play, let's say, and they moved the ball well going forward, and that potentially lasted about 5 minutes, and then it was back to just an absolute United onslaught, to be honest. But yeah. I think Liverpool themselves were very poor, and we capitalised on that.
Well, that's going to be my next question. But before we move on to the kind of the on-the-field stuff, Barry, I want to get your thoughts on this, because I think me and you are very similar in terms of, where's the comment gone? Somebody hit the nail on the head for me anyway. Where's it gone? That one. What TJ was saying, not going to be much of a rival. We beat them 6-0 every time. I think that's where I am. Watching it on TV, I didn't get the same, like, oh, it's Liverpool, we need to smack. It was just like, oh, this is just like we're playing Birmingham or Leicester, or like just another poor WSL side. There was a little bit of edge, but it didn't feel like a full right. Maybe that's because I wasn't there, I don't know, but it didn't have quite that edge to it for me.
That's what I say, because I could lose my Manchester United membership card. I'm going to come straight out and say it. I don't think we've got a rivalry in Liverpool. I think it doesn't appear to have. In the women's game, it doesn't seem to exist. I really thought about this weekend. Just had a lot of time. I was away for the weekend, and the sort of place that I was in. You were talking about the Antiques Roadshow where you were. I've got no idea what you were talking about, but I was in Warners, and most people there were over the age of 60. So I felt your pain. Perhaps they were bringing the stuff. I don't know. But trying to watch it, a rivalry to me has got to have something about it. Like you said, Charlie mentioned Jeopardy. It's not a rivalry if you smash them 6-0. That's just bullying, really, isn't it? If you just keep doing that consistently. So I think I said last week there is a chance for that rivalry to build up. But I feel like with Liverpool, we're transferring things from the men's game to the women's game that just don't compare at that point in time. United and Liverpool on the men's side have got a massive rivalry because of the fact that we both won like 60 odd trophies. And so as a result, there's a real competitive rivalry there. And there is no competitive rivalry in this match. We've absolutely walloped them. We've barely played them much because they've never really been in our league. And do you know what? This weekend, they still weren't in our league. And I think therein sort of lies the issue. So don't get me wrong. I would love to see Liverpool start producing something that makes it feel like a rivalry. It's not there yet. It's just not there yet. And yes, Andrew, exactly. You said far more eloquently what I'm trying to get across. It's just not there yet. It's going to need to be built up a bit more. I think City, it's a geographical rival, so it's always going to be there, but it just hasn't quite hit that. For me, the rivals in the women's game for us are the people like Chelsea, City and Arsenal who we're trying to chase and where there is genuine jeopardy in matches. And if we start winning some stuff, then maybe that'll be the case too. But yeah, I said it. We've won 6-0. I'm delighted. It's been a cracking weekend to be a United fan. I just don't feel like I felt in the Arsenal game. I really don't, because we swatted them away like they were an annoying fly.
Yeah, I think that's definitely my thoughts on it. Like I said, it's always going to be different when you're there and when you're not. I understand that, but I did see a little rant on Twitter. I think this was you anyway, talking about trying to get out of LSV. I've seen the videos and and a couple of people ranted on Twitter about this. And I think, as Charlie said, whatever Antiques thing was on at LSV, as well as the game, that didn't help things. And just people going out for the Sunday lunch at the Wren, that probably didn't help either, or they're shopping at Morrison's and things like that. It all doesn't help, does it? So, yeah, if we're going to get bigger attendances, which was great to see, by the way, that's one to be sorted. But we've been over that multiple times. We don't need to talk about the inefficiencies of LSV just yet. Right, I want to get onto the game because there's 6 goals to talk about, 6 different scorers, a great performance, and all of those things in between. But the simple question I'm going to start with all of you: were we really good, or were Liverpool really bad, or was it somewhere in the middle? Charlie, you fire us off on that one.
I think it was a bit of both. I thought we were really good. I think if you compare it to, obviously, there's a lot of negativity was surrounding the game against Leicester, who also weren't very good, but we didn't really make much of that opportunity. We beat them, obviously, let's not forget that. But I thought we were really good. I thought we played it brilliantly. What I liked, there was times I turned around to Pete, because I took the family with me, unfortunately. But I turned around to Pete, and it was when I think we were 2-0 up, and our defensive line, I don't know if you noticed this, Jess, because you obviously where we were, it was halfway into the Liverpool side, like literally our back four was
we were playing so high.
Centre circle, we were squeezing them so high, and they could not get out. So I think tactically we were spot on. A bit like Arsenal as well. I think we pressed them really well. You look at the number of recoveries that our players made, particularly the midfielders. It was astronomical, and Honor as well. I thought we were brilliant. They couldn't put a glove on us at all. And they've put in some all right performances, I think, Liverpool, across the course of the season here or there. They're certainly better than Leicester, I think. But they just couldn't cope. They didn't have an answer to what we were doing. I think Jess was right when she said in the second half, there was like a 3 or 4 minute period when they pressed a little bit better and we just found a way around it, and they just couldn't respond. We were quicker than them. We worked harder, which I like. We were more aggressive. I keep going back to it, but we're not a massive side in the middle of the park. And you look at the number of aerial duels that Zellum and Ladd are winning. alongside the number of ground duels, you can just see in every aspect we're so much better. And now those sorts of teams where we might have sort of just got past them or maybe drawn it, we're just turning them over now, and that's a massive difference. I thought we were brilliant, and I think Liverpool were poor, but we shouldn't say that's the only reason that it was 6-0. We were incredible and relentless as well.
Yeah, Jess, do you kind of echo that sentiment? That it was.
I mean, at the end of the day, you can only play the team that you're put up against. And I thought Liverpool were very poor. You know, they, as a side, they are not that bad. They can play a lot better than how they did yesterday. So I was quite disappointed by them, to be honest. I was hoping for it to be a little bit closer. But yeah, we were just absolutely relentless. And I think if you compare that to kind of previous seasons or, you know, other teams, they might go in 3-0 at half time and then sit back. I think that's one huge difference, and that's going to be very beneficial. I mean, if you look at the league table now, there's us, Chelsea and Arsenal, all kind of sitting on the same amount of points. If we all, the three teams, if they all sort of carry on as we're doing and no one drops any silly points, you know, it could very well go down to goal difference. And that's when games like this make a huge difference. That's when, you know, these 6-0 games, it comes up like hugely beneficial that you don't take your foot off the gas, basically. I thought having 6 different scorers, again, we just seem to every game, where every high scoring game, we've got completely different scorers, which I think is really great. And it shows that there's not just like one kind of set play, or we don't have just one kind of tactic. You know, some teams kind of their tactic is to just smash it up to the kind of front player. Our tactic is not just boot it to Russo and hope for the best. And I'm hoping that going, you know, for the rest of the season, that's going to really like come up trumps for us as well, because we have so many different ideas, we've got so many different goal scorers and different ways of scoring. One thing that I also really like this week is how much the kind of the wide players were sort of overlapping. So the like right back, left back, Honor and Hannah were just absolutely pounding them, and Liverpool just could not handle it. I think for a little while Van der Sanden was on the pitch, she was by far Liverpool's best player, and I don't know why they took her off. I know she got a yellow card, but quite a few people around me were commenting on how quick she was on the ball, how good she was on the ball, and I'd say she was probably Liverpool's only outlet. She was the only person that I would have been concerned that kind of running towards our goal. But no, we were pretty spot on, to be honest. Not much to kind of complain about at all.
Someone sent you the crib sheet, haven't you? Because you've covered off about 5 of my questions in your one answer there. I couldn't believe that. I was going through as she's answered that, she's answered that.
It's not overexcited.
Go on, Barry. I'll let you have your say on this as well. And what do you think Liverpool really? But I think it's a bit of both, isn't it? Do you reckon, or are you going to completely disagree with me and just say?
Well, I'm going to throw out the stats that I threw into our little chat earlier on, because I'm going to let the people decide, really. You know, 72% possession for Man United, 28 for Liverpool. 19 shots for United, 4 for Liverpool. 6 shots on target for United, none for Liverpool. I would say that we scored with every single goal, every single shot on target, but we all know that's not true, because Millie Turner's shot was aiming, I think, for the corner flag at one point and was deflected. So we obviously had one shot on target that didn't go in, and frankly, I think that's a reason to call for Skinner's head. You should be having 6 shots on target and goals from them all. But no, seriously, unreal. We had double the amount of passes, more clear-cut chances. We won more aerial duels. The goalkeepers, Mary Earps didn't make a save. I mean, when we were talking about discussion points, I went on Mary Earps with another clean sheet. She didn't have to do anything. She could have sat down, get a knitting out, cup of tea, eat some chocolate chip cookies. She'd have been all right. She'd have been sorted. She could have sat in the crowd. There was like nothing to do. And I think when you look at it that way, it's really, that's what I mean. It's how can you say we were brilliant? You know, I think that the key takeaways here is what Charlie said about Leicester. We did to Liverpool what we should have done to Leicester. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway from this game is that Andrew Wall's already said it. It's a two-half performance. We didn't stop and go, oh, we're 3-0 up. They're not going to come at us. That's fine. We can just play the ball around. We kept going and we kept pushing forward, which we don't always seem to be so good at. So, yeah, for me, loving it. And I also think we just need to just take a moment. Nobody seems to have spotted the celebrity in the panel of 4 here, because Jess is clearly in the background there. She's got a global superstar with her. Can you not see that? It's the eye from Pixar.
Yeah, that's it.
Always there.
Yeah, you caught me. That's it. I've nicked the Pixar eye.
That's so real. Autograph. That's amazing.
Can I just quickly say, you're talking about Mary, Barry?
Yes.
Something I really liked that she did. Just don't know if you noticed this. There was a point when it wouldn't have been a pass back because it wasn't a goal scoring opportunity, but I think the ball went through to Mary and it went right to the byline and she just stood over it. And it was about 30 seconds. And then the Liverpool players were like trying to work out what was going on here. So Mary just went like, pointed at the ball, like, you can come and get this because I'm not moving. And it was just really awkward for the Liverpool forward having to go, oh, God, okay. And then she's like, thanks very much, and picked it up. So, like, toying with her a little bit.
She needed something to do.
Yeah,
That's what she
I
had to do.
noticed that. I thought that Liverpool were just so fed up of playing that they were actually just trying to keep the scoreline down. So, like, they were doing their own time wasting as well.
Just letting her have it.
Basically, yeah.
Do you know the only thing I might say to work on this is like, trying to play devil's advocate, which is almost impossible.
Yeah.
All I would say is, I would like us to have, of the number of shots we have, I feel like we should get more on target than we do sometimes. And there was a couple of near misses, like Blundell, wasn't it, between the first and the second, just went past the far post. But that might be the only thing. Like, I don't.
Well, to be fair, Charlie, I brought it up last year as well. It was when we were talking about trying to break into the top 3. They had a better shots on target ratio than we did. So I think that's been a perennial problem for us. But, listen, if we're going to score 6 goals in every game, I'll take that 100%.
Oh, yeah. Just trying to put like a...
Yeah, no, I was just looking back at our last few games. So the last, when we won 5-0 against Villa, that was 18 shots, 9 on target. It's a very similar. Just looking at the Arsenal game, 10 and 6, so a bit closer in that one. But I think, as Barry, you said, we did a show on it at the back end of last season talking about this. It does seem to be another, I say problem, like we're not scoring, but we are. We're still scoring, 6 in a game and so on. So it's not the end of the world at the moment. But I do get your
Skinner
point.
said, didn't he? Skinner said you're always looking for improvement. That's what they're always striving for, perfection.
Indeed. I don't really know how to do this next bit, talking about the goals, because I don't really want to sit here and go through each goal because I feel like we'd be here all night doing that.
Everyone's favourite. Everyone's favourite.
There you
No
go.
one can repeat. Then you talk about 4 at least.
Just very quickly before we do that, though, the player of the match poll is in the chat. I think it is going to be very close between 2 players. I think Hayley and Honor are going to be way out in front for this one. They're split 50 to 46 at the moment, with only the 1 vote for Garcia and 0 for Millie. Poor Millie. Someone vote for her just so she's not on 0. But yeah, 50 to 46 at the moment in favour of Hayley Ladd. So yeah, make sure you drop a vote on that. Yeah, we'll do that first then. We'll go around each of you. Charlie, considering you came up with it, what was your favourite goal then out of the 6?
So my favourite goal was Martha Thomas goal. Jess is fuming.
Yeah,
You're right. I just went wide.
It's fine. I had the second one. It's all right.
I thought Torres Dottir, she was key part of that. Won the ball back. Really good ball to Tooney, and it was a bit similar to the one that Tooney assisted at Old Trafford for Russo, I thought, against Villa, where really long ball that just went perfectly along the edge of the 16-yard box, and Martha Thomas rifled it in. So really good goal for her. Only her second touch, and she said that was for 5-0, wasn't it? Like, she celebrated that like it was the goal Rashford scored against City the day before. But I thought that was a really good goal, really good team goal.
Jess, do you want to follow on from that? Because I think you might have had the same one there.
Yeah, I was going for the same one just because I love the assist, to be honest. But sticking with the Tooney assist, I'm going to go for Russo's goal. Purely because I love the build-up play behind it. I thought the weight of the pass through to Russo was pretty much spot on. But I thought actually that goal, like watching it back today, Russo's kind of on the spin. So to actually get it right in the corner where she did, it was kind of a lot harder than I potentially first realised watching it, because she's fully spinning and hitting it, and the sort of power that she actually managed to get. I think there's been chances similar where it's really difficult to kind of actually make a clean connection. You can end up scuffing it a little bit. So I just thought that with the Russo's connection, driving that straight into the bottom corner was a really good goal.
Barry, for yourself?
Well, this lady's first thing's a bit annoying because they've nicked my goal now that Charlie completely butchered Jess there with nicking her one, and now I'm stuck with the leftovers. I would have gone with Russo. Would have been my. I think that's one of the goals of the season for us. It was just such a brilliant finish from distance as well to get that accuracy and the power in. I thought it was perfect placement. But working on the theory that you'd kind of like us all to pick something different. I'm not going for Garcia because it was a deflection and she didn't mean it. I can't, in all seriousness, pick an own goal. So that's not going to work either. I could pick Rachel Williams just because it's Rach and we all love Rachel Williams, but I would actually go with Hayley Ladd's goal. Because again, I think it's brilliant. It was a bit like last season. She had a little purple patch where she scored about 2 or 3 goals in about 3 or 4 matches. And I thought that was really, really good when she did that. And again, it was the same thing, just getting to the far post, rising, beating 2 players for the header, put it down to the ground like you're told to, well away from the goalkeeper in the corner, perfect placement. So I think you could pick any one of those 3, but I'd have picked Russo. That was my favourite.
Yeah, I think Rachel Williams is one stands out for me purely because, well, as John says there as well, if you caught Williams' goal perfectly. Miss Martha's by a city. Sorry, Jess, I'm going to throw you right under the bus here. You want to see some of Jess's footage of the game. I think that was... There's certainly an art to capture it.
Yeah, don't anyone ever ask me to be a paparazzi or to take any kind of pictures or videos because I'm just not cut out for it. I'm too engrossed in the game, and by the time I remember that I even own a phone, the moment's gone. And in the end, my friend told me, she was like, just put your phone away because every time you get it out, like, United mess up. So I had to just put it away, and that was it.
But if you haven't checked out the matchday vlog from yesterday, obviously make sure you go and do that. John did some brilliant work in Charlie as well. And a couple of photos from...
Great goals. He got quite a few of them, didn't he?
It was quite a good one in the end between John and Charlie and, like I said, Andrew as well. Andrew's photos of that guy. I tweeted this yesterday, by the way. I'm going really off tangent here. Go and check out Andrew's Instagram. I'll shout that out, by the way, because his photos, by the way, at the games are brilliant. Men's team and women's team. But his photos are actually too good for the thumbnails. It won't let me use them. It says the file size is too big, and I can't compress them because it ruins the images. But there we are. Yeah, brilliant work on the vlog. There was a question for you, Charlie. I went really off piece there. There was a question for you a bit further up. Ask Charlie which goal she celebrated the most. I'm assuming that's in reference to the Williams goal at the end.
Yeah.
Maybe? I don't know.
How class has she been?
How many goals is that now?
Just comes on every game, pops a little goal in.
Is she up 4, 5? Is she on that?
I've heard you don't even celebrate them anymore, Charlie, because it's just so commonplace now. It's like, yep, it's done it again. What do you expect? It's Williams.
Easy. But that's her job, isn't it? I thought the subs were really...
Oh, hello, Roy. How you doing?
I just thought the subs were really good. They came on. I think I was saying to you guys earlier, wasn't I? I felt like they came on and they did a really good job. Now, granted, the opposition weren't great, but they came in and they just really put them to the sword. Like, all of them. Did a really good job. And those like Martha Thomas and Rachel Williams, that's what's got us the best goal difference. It's those 2 coming on and just going full subs.
I mean, Thomas must have scored with pretty much her first touch of the game, I think.
Yeah.
It was. I remember seeing the goal go in and thinking like she's literally been on this pitch maybe like 30 seconds. I'm not even sure that she's touched the ball up until this point. But that is what you want from your subs, and that is what you look for on your bench. And like you say, that is going to be hopefully, that could be the difference.
I think Thomas said in a post-match little interview that she did on the United social, she was saying, like, they know what their job is. Like, her job is to come on and prove that she deserves more minutes than she's getting, and she's up for that. That's what she said. So I've come on, and I just need to do a really good job every time and just make sure I'm in the manager's thoughts. So that's what a good mentality that is to be having. To be thinking, when I come on, I need to take the most of this opportunity. They were really good. Maria as well was really good. Had a really big hand in a couple of the later goals as well.
Yeah, I thought Thor was really, really, really good when she came on. She's really impressed me. I mean, to be honest, I've not been like a massive, massive fan of hers. Not that she's done like anything wrong or anything. don't rate her as high as some of the others, I guess.
No.
But I thought she came on and she really did impress me. I thought she played really well.
So going down Charlie's route of devil's advocate, is there anything in the suggestion that maybe that it's easy for them, well, not easy, but they can come on when it's 2-3, 4-0, something like that, and they have the confidence of the fact that they know the results in the bag, so therefore they're able to express themselves a bit better? Because I know there's been conversations about whether or not the strength in depth really came to the fore in this game, but when you can come in and play with freedom and there's, as we said earlier, no jeopardy, do we still feel that this would work had it been 1-0 perhaps or 0-0, and we're scrambling about trying to get the 3 points? Or do we think that's a different type of pressure?
I think right, let's look at both sides of that. So we've had games in the season before, haven't we, where we've been like 4-0 up at half time and the subs have come on and it's still just been a little bit of a damp squib, hasn't it? Still, they've not come on, and we've expected them to come on against a tired defence, against the sort of lower half of the table and make a difference, and they haven't. And it feels like they did this time. I think if we're playing Arsenal or playing City or Chelsea in four games time and we're winning 1-0, I think you probably don't see all of those changes that early, if I'm being honest at that point. But I think against those sorts of teams, it's like what we wanted against Leicester, didn't we? We wanted those players to come on with a point to prove in a situation where we're well on top, and to put teams to the sword. That's what you want from them, isn't it? You want them to come on and be able to do things like that.
Absolutely.
Now, whether they could come on, whether those same players could come on and win us a game against Chelsea, I don't know. But they're doing what we need them to do in particular games, I think. So if they can come on and bang in a couple against Reading, last 15 minutes, that's really good outing from them. But again, yeah, I know what you're saying. I think in a game maybe where we have to win, it's not as comfortable. You maybe don't make the changes.
It's an interesting point, isn't it?
No, it's good. Yeah, it's an important discussion point, isn't it?
Because I think you mentioned about the top three there. Thomas had a brilliant when she came on against Arsenal at the Emirates. Yeah. As someone's just put in the comments there, talking about. I'm assuming that's Martha's, not Marta. But I know what you're trying to put there. Yeah, talking about that game at the Emirates again. And I think that was going to be my kind of point. We kind of discussed it really about the subs and the impact that they're having. Because I think, Rachel Williams is definitely on 2 in the league. I don't know how many she's on overall. It's got to be 4 or 5 now. And all of these players are chipping in. I've just had a look. I think we're on 14 different scorers now in the WSL alone, which is pretty incredible. We referenced the Leicester game. We also said at the time that we hoped that would be a one-off. It's seeming like it is with the games that we've had since in the Conti Cup aside. I don't want to talk about that too much. Charlie, you've just mentioned about Garcia as well. Another player, and this kind of ties into something, Barry, you brought up as well off camera when we were talking earlier. That kind of our wide players, obviously Galton was out. We suspect a small injury. She should be back for next weekend, we hope. But Charlie, talk to us about Garcia and kind of the impact on that right-hand side. There's been a lot of talk, Garcia or Paris, because obviously they're mainly in the same position. Paris is on the other side this weekend. When Galton's back, do you expect Garcia to kind of stick around? Do you think she's performed enough now to go, hang on a minute, me and Honor have got this great link up on this side. I should be starting at you.
Yeah, I think that's why I wanted to talk about it. I feel like if Galton's match fit, then she, with the season that she's having, would or should, in my opinion, just come back into the side, is what I would think. I also feel like every time Garcia and Honor play together, that side of the opposition just can't cope with them at all. And I wonder, for me at the moment, if I perhaps play Galton and Garcia as our wide players rather than Paris. And that's not me not me saying she isn't good enough. But I just feel like the impact that there is on that right-hand side when it's the 2 Spanish players is much better and more impactful than when it's not the 2 of them. I don't know what other people's thoughts are. So the different roles, aren't they? Like if you watched it, like when you watched the game, Garcia was very much out wide, okay, and an outlet for Honor and for Zellum to play those balls out wide that was always on, whereas Paris's job was more to cut in. wasn't it? But I think if you're looking at two wide players, probably at the moment I'd go Galton and Garcia, I think, at the minute, based on what I've seen. I don't know what everyone else's thoughts are. Like, it's a nice problem for Mark to have, isn't it?
I would definitely agree with that, I think. I'd probably, like you say, bring Galton pretty much straight back in. Assume it's only a small injury, you know, potentially bring her in for, I don't know, an hour. If she does need like time management, game management, maybe don't bring her on for the whole game, sub her off, whatever, bring Paris back on. But that link up between Garcia and Honor, I think, like I was saying earlier about the link up on the wings, and that is where a lot of our chances are coming from. And I mean, the assists coming down Honor's side, especially. I mean, what did she get? 2 or 3 assists yesterday? 2.
Yeah.
I think she's leading our assist stats, maybe even like one of the top, one of the leaders in the whole WSL for assists. So there's a lot coming down that side, and I just think that Garcia just seems to have the edge at the minute over Paris, in my opinion. But like you say, it's a great problem to have. And it is good that we now kind of are expanding our depth a little bit on the bench so that we do have these problems. You know, we have got that like, oh, well, I've got, say, 3 players that can all play out wide. Who am I going to pick? You know, you've got maybe 3 starting 11 players there and 2 positions. So that is a nice problem for us to have, especially at this stage in the season. Hopefully nothing major going on with Galton and she's back sort of at the weekend or the following week.
So what I find interesting about that is, again, if you look at our fixture list as it at the moment, we've got Reading obviously away next week. We've got the FA Cup game the week after that. And then arguably sort of the toughest game out of our next cluster before the break in February, we've got Everton women. And I suppose, obviously, because playing Everton men would be illegal and not allowed. I don't know why I specified it on that one when I didn't with the others. Just, too busy. If I'm honest, I was just too busy thinking, why does this guy have to be on my calendar? I don't want him there. Linking Ronaldo. But let's just say that Galton's injured for the next game or two, and that obviously Mark starts to manage the minutes. We get to the Everton game. You know, I'm sure we're going to come to this, but whether we like it or not, Paris was given the Player of the Match award by the BBC. Those 2 games, Reading, playing the FA Cup game, we do well, maybe score another 5 or 6 goals in 1 or 2 of the games. Do we really then, you know, bearing in mind you could have potentially scored up to 18 goals there, maybe conceding 1 or none. It's a brave decision to make to take out either Paris or Garcia, really, whichever one it is, and then just keep one of them on the right to put Leah back in. Is there an argument that you want them to fight for that position, that there would need to be seen something in training or a mistake that's happened in the match? Because my biggest fear in any football team is when players are just picked because that's how well they were doing. At the end of the day, these people that are below, that aren't necessarily the starters, surely you want them to feel like they can come in, do well, and if they're part of a winning team, then generally their place would be guaranteed unless it's managing minutes and things like that. Is that not a...
Yeah, you want everyone to be fighting for their place, and you want enough competition so that fight feels, well, like there is actually a fight. You know, you want to make sure that in every position you've got players that are competing, because at the end of the day, it's the players that kind of drive each other, and that is how we'll progress as a team. You've got to have competition for players, otherwise that's when you start seeing people get complacent, and then, you know, that's when form can also start to drop. But
So I guess what I'm asking is if this game and the next couple of games, if we've done well with it, would you make that change? I suppose is what I'm asking. Would you still go, all right, we've had 3 great wins, but we're going to stick Galton in on the left and drop Paris, for example?
I guess it goes back to, you see how the players are at training. If there is any kind of like minute management, before, so Galton won the like the player of the month, didn't she? So you kind of potentially give her benefit of the doubt, maybe if she's only out for a couple of games, that she can kind of walk straight back into the team if it's only a couple of weeks, based on how high she was performing. But again, it is all about competition for places, and you have to be at your best week in, week out. And at this kind of level, and that's how you want it to be. You want, if there's any drop off in performance, you want that player to be rested until they can kind of fight to get back in the team. And that's how we will drive forward as a team. and how we'll hopefully, win the league eventually this season.
Absolutely. I do have to say, the Honor and Garcia at its best on the right-hand side, love that.
I think there's certain positions you can just swap a player in and out, regardless. Like we're talking about, obviously, the wingers at the moment with Leah coming back in. I think, Charlie, I think you said this on, it might have been last Wednesday's show on with Barry, that the back five, usually if you're winning consistently, you keep the same defence. You don't want to change too much of that. But I feel like the wingers and like attacking midfield and some place like you can change a little bit, because it's not like you're swapping a bad player, like a really good player for a bad player. They're both good players, that we're talking about, Galton, Paris, Garcia. They're all good players. So it's not like you're not like you're massively downgrading. So I just feel like you can bring in whoever, but certainly on that right hand side where you're talking about Garcia and Honor, for me that's our best right hand side and some of the best attacking play I've seen us play with those two. And I'd also throw Ella Toon into that as well. I always like to bring her in because she likes to drift. I think she likes playing with Garcia on that side with Honor, because I just think they work well as almost like a diamond between the three of them, and it creates us a lot of chances. I always say it, that Honor on her own creates us more chances, I think, than most of the team put together. And I think that's why it's going to be a massive shame if she is to walk out the door, unfortunately. Barry, you were pulling some expressions at me when I was saying that. Have you got...
because your logic just seemed to have a bit of a flaw, that was all. Which is nothing unusual when we're talking. No, it's just you were talking about the back four and trying to keep the same back five, and you were saying it's not really the same if you change your wingers. Well, it's not, but the purpose of keeping the same back five is that they get used to each other, they play well with each other, they build that trust and all of that sort of thing. Well, the same thing works with the attacking 5 or 6 as well, in that you want them to get used to each other, understand where the runs are going to be, who's going to be going, so they get into sync. So whilst you're right, I mean, I would argue also that if we remove a defender, we're not going to be swapping them for, it's not me, I'm not going on. If all of a sudden we take off Millie Turner and stick me at centre-back, we've got problems because, I'm 5'2" and I've got a dodgy knee. So it wouldn't be a good idea. I get that. But, I think you want that synchronicity as well whilst they're up front. So you want to basically pick your best 11, obviously, every single time. But I understand also that at this level you are going to have flipping about. So, yeah, I think I was just trying to understand where you were going with that.
It's certainly not a bad problem to have, as we said, but yeah, certainly Garcia. That's why she's on the poll, which Hayley Ladd is now. I think she's winning, or she was the last time I checked. Yeah, she still is. So make sure you get a vote on that. We'll be coming back to that in about 10-15 minutes' time as we give our own. Something else I wanted to ask, then, obviously, off the back of this. Now, we've obviously moved up into second. Goal difference is now playing a factor. How this is an open question for everyone, because I don't want to spend too long on this, but kind of the goal difference, Jeff, I think you referenced this earlier, that how important that could become. Are we now looking at a case where winning games might not be enough for where we want to be? If we are going for the title now, we could be level with Chelsea. We're going to need that goal difference. That's now the stage that we're at. That we're looking at these games going, right, 3-0 at half time. Let's get this to 4, 5, and 6, and really put some numbers on these teams. That's open to absolutely everybody, or nobody. If nobody wants to answer it, I will move on.
I was just looking at the goal difference now, actually.
Yeah.
I think when you look at the teams and you look at how the results have kind of gone so far this season, it's difficult to see where the kind of top 3, maybe 4 if you include City, are going to slip up. I know there's been some wobbles kind of early on with City and Chelsea, and potentially now with the injury issue at Arsenal, you might see a bit of a slip from them. But other than amongst those kind of games within ourselves, so like Chelsea, United, Arsenal, City, the games within the top 4, it's hard to see any of those top 4 teams dropping points to the sort of lower part of the table. Obviously upsets always happen. It's just that so far this season, everything's kind of played out how you would expect. So yes, I think goals are going to be very, very important. Because there could be, it could come down to the fact that we're all going to be on very similar points. We're halfway through the season now, and Chelsea obviously have a game in hand, but we're all essentially on the same points. I think United, if there wasn't that game in hand, I'm assuming we kind of won and we're all on the same points, United would be top. So it's difficult to see that changing too much. I really hope. So yeah, I think goal difference could be a huge one this year. Absolutely massive.
Because a lot of people have discounted City already. I don't know why, because City are capable of going on 15, 20 match winning runs. So they're definitely not out of it. But I thought I'd ask that question because I feel like looking at as you said, if we win, obviously, and Arsenal win their game in hand over Chelsea, we're all level. So then it does come down to goal difference. I think someone just referenced it there. Arsenal's still got to go away to City. We've still got City, obviously, in the home game. We've still got the Arsenal home and Chelsea away. So it is going to come down to that, I think.
I've been having discussions on Twitter about whether Rashford was offside at the weekend, and I told the guy there, you've got to work with facts, you can't work with hypotheticals. And the facts here are quite simple. If we win every single one of our last games, we're going to finish level on points with Chelsea. So absolutely, at the moment it comes down to goal difference. So quite simply, we've just got to spank everyone by 6. Easy, right?
A good way of looking at it. Yeah, I like that.
Hit for 6 as is in the title for this one. That's what that's what we want to see.
What a chant that is!
Who started that, by the way?
It was Deb's nephew.
Oh.
He was absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, certainly. I would bring on them all. I like that. I think that's the kind of situation, and that leads me very nicely into my kind of last question, or next question, really, in terms of, Charlotte, I'll start with you. Are your expectations changing as the season goes on? I know somebody on this panel, looking at Barry, has said that we're going to win the league since the start, but week by week, we are looking better and better, and it does look like now, as saying here, bring them all on. There's nobody really that I'm looking at going, we can't win that. Is that kind of how your expectations changing now, Charlie? Are you looking more towards the title rather than top 3, or what do you think?
I think I'm very easily swept away in the excitement. So I think the men and the women are going to win the league this year, is what I think is going to happen. Become a meme now, right this moment. I think the position we're in, I think you have to be looking up. You have to be. It can't just be having that mentality now of third, which obviously is important. I think sometimes you have that mentality because we've not done it before, but we're in a position now where I'm sure that at the club they'll have a minimum expectation at this point, which is top 3. But there is no way that there is no one thinking or planning or discussing not discussing the potential opportunity for that last game of the season to be fighting for the title. I just think we're a force to be reckoned with at the moment. I think if you're Reading and you're going, oh God, like they're literally turning everyone over. That's what's happening here. How on earth are we going to cope with that? I think that's probably what teams are thinking as well. It's less of how are we going to beat them, it's how are we going to stop them. Because I think we're not crumbling under pressure. We're grinding out wins when we wouldn't have done, and we're turning over teams when we would have just ground out wins. So I think you've got to be looking at that.
That's kind of like
that combination of things.
Can I just throw that back to you actually, into something you just raised? It. Do you, and this to Jess and Barry afterwards as well. But do you think we are getting to that level of a Chelsea and an Arsenal? As you said, their teams are now. Do you think teams are looking at us now, going, actually, how do we stop them? Not how do we beat them? Because when Chelsea roll up to teams, they're probably going to beat Leicester like 9 or 10-0 like they do every single season. Chelsea and Arsenal have that fear factor where they go to teams and it's just as soon as they get 1, they're going to get 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. Do you think United are slowly starting to get to that level now where teams are fearing us when we're going, or coming to LSV for that matter?
Yeah, I think I was just about to say that as well. I feel like probably coming to LSV is quite uncomfortable for a lot of sides now, particularly with the increase in the number of fans that we're getting, spectators, and for away games as well. Like we look at that Reading game, is where Jess realised what a nerd I am that she didn't realise. But we've sold, just in the away allocation, we've sold like 1,200 tickets, away tickets, and we've only had that away allocation for about a month. Like Spurs, we've sold 1,600. Like United are a juggernaut, they always have been. And I just think the way we're playing at the moment, lots of sides will just be not expecting. I think they'll be coming in with a different mentality against us. I think previously we had a bit of a soft centre. We're a bit soft. Like I think teams probably thought these will break. These will break at some point, and it just feels a little bit like this season. That's not the case. Does that make sense?
No, it does certainly does to me. I mean, yeah, Jess, I was going to say, do you agree with that? Do you think that teams are now looking at us and going, like Charlie said, especially at home form this season?
Yeah, I mean, when we were kind of mentioning before about how it literally seemed like Liverpool were almost time wasting, or Liverpool were happy with our time wasting, that was genuine. Like I was thinking that as I was watching the game, I was thinking they do not want to be playing us. They're wasting time because they know we're going to keep scoring. So it was almost to their benefit that they realized, they were never going to get back into that game. They were unlikely to even get a goal back. So it's almost like they reached a point where it was like, we just need to waste time so no more go in. But I think the Arsenal game seemed like quite a big sort of turning point. And I think that showed kind of how we've changed from the team we sort of were even last season. Because to come back, away at the Emirates and to come back and win that game, especially the following week after losing at home to Chelsea, I think that showed a huge shift in mentality. That win really was massive, and that could be kind of like the turning point for our whole season. I mean, before the season started, I was kind of thinking, right, we really need to be pushing for third here. Like, it's going to be tough, but like third, we can do it. Whereas now, as the weeks go on, I'm like, oh no, we can actually win this. And I need to be careful because I can't handle disappointment very well. So I need to try and be sensible with what I think, but nah, we're winning that.
Yeah, I think who put the comment? Where is Yehuda? I say screw it. Let's allow ourselves to dream. I mean,
yeah, I like that.
I know your thoughts on it, Barry, but in terms of that fear factor, do you think we spoke about this on the men's channel actually? In terms of Old Trafford becoming that kind of, is that coming back now with the fear factor at Old Trafford? Do you think we're starting to get that now for our women's side as well? Like I said, particularly our home form, that teams are more concerned about stopping us rather than trying to beat us now.
It's an interesting place in the top four at the moment. Top three, let's ignore City because they've lost two. Arsenal have lost one game this season, and that was to us. We've lost one game this season, and that was to Chelsea. Who can remind me, who did Chelsea lose to this year?
Liverpool.
Right. So, this is why when Sam comes in starting giving it old Billy Biggs, that, you're not going to win, you've got to come to Kingsmeadow. We're not scared of you at Kingsmeadow. It's the fear factor. It's not about people coming to us and being scared. It's about us not being scared to play them. We've had the conversations before, Connor. We've said it 1,000,001 times. You said it. We're almost beaten when we play Chelsea immediately because we have that mental block. We haven't got past them before, so we never see it through. I'm not scared of that with this team. I think the game that we played at LSV with Chelsea, we gifted to them. They didn't win it because they were vastly superior to us. They won it because we gave them the ball. We made some silly mistakes. And basically, we just did for ourselves there. We gave it to them. We're not going to show them that respect at Kingsmeadow. I think you put this team in that game that we played in the last game of last season, and we'd not be coming out of it losing 4-2. I can't say 100% would have won or that would have held on to it or that anything else should have changed on that. But I do think we would have had a better performance. So it could all change. Let's be brutally honest, it could all change. I've been having arguments with people on the men's team saying, are we still in a title race? Are we in a title race? And I've said, of course we are. But if we don't get a good result against Arsenal at the weekend, I mean, even I'm going to struggle to come up with positive vibes for that one. It's the same here. If we go and we win some of these big games that we're going to have coming up during March and so on. If we go, listen, March is the big one. We go to Kingsmeadow and beat Chelsea, then I'm expecting personal apologies from everybody that's appeared on this show. And I wish to be elevated to mystic meg proportions. I'm going to have my own little bit in the Barmy article. Septic peg like Brian Conley used to be. That'll be me. Giving you my predictions of what's going to happen in the future. So listen, it's just, isn't it good Mark Henry and I, we sat here, said, just enjoy the ride. What a ride it's been so far. It's been absolutely amazing. And we've still got the same amount of time to go again. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. Loving it.
100%. And so, this just, I don't know why it came to my head, but there is an out of context All for United account out there. I don't know who made it. It was set up like a few years ago now, but it was all from the men's channel. And there's loads of clips of me on there. I don't know who actually set that up. I still need to find out because I think that belongs on that account. Personally, we're not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with us. That's a nice quote, Barry. Just need to
also, Connor, can I just point out? Norman was right when he said this earlier. My maths let me down, and I was expecting Charlie to pick me up on it, really, but clearly she couldn't be bothered. So there you go. But yeah,
well, our game enhanced Spurs, isn't it? It's the rearranged Spurs game. So yes, it's all to play for. And to be fair, TJ, I'm not saying Emma because Emma Hayes is a top coach, but she wants that Champions League, don't she? That's the one. You know, Chelsea have won the league obviously a load of times. If they could have the Champions League or the league, I'm pretty sure they'd be choosing the Champions League right now. So potentially, you know, they've got a tough draw potentially in the next round. So we'll see on that one. I think that was all the kind of thing before I get to kind of player of the match. I think we've covered kind of substitutions and things like that. Is there anything from any of you to add on the game before we kind of look to player in the match and things like that? We've covered the subs and kind of the ruthlessness of the game and going after it. You go for it, Barry. What have you got?
I do, because I was sat there in my chair watching this match because the old Billy's wanted to watch the snooker in the bar, which believe it, I've never known anything like it. So I had to move away. I went back to my room. And in the second half, I was watching it. And I think it must have been around about 79, 80 minutes, by which point we were sort of 5-6 up at that point. And I just saw Honor chasing for a ball at that point, right at the on the touchline. And I just thought to myself, that's what makes her special. It's 6-0 and we're still going for it as if it's minute 6. And yeah, I thought that, and I want to say that on Monday, and I've said it now. So there you go. Big up Honor. Loved it.
I think that's the thing from the whole team, isn't it? The work rate does go under the radar a little bit. The fact that this team does work very hard. Charlie, I think you said it earlier, Martha Thomas comes on and she that goal, she celebrated like, you know, she'd won the game for us at that point. So
well,
you can see that for the whole squad.
Skinner said in his post-match, the only thing I'll say is he talks about, well, he said it was 6 out of 10, shit pitch. That's what he said, didn't he? Which didn't help. But he also said that at half-time, he said they weren't talking like they were winning. They weren't having a discussion. They weren't planning for the second half as if they were winning. They were planning, how are we going to go out there and play smart and score more goals, which I think is maybe a little bit of a shift that people were after. I mean, that might have been conversations that were always happening, but the team wasn't in a quiet place yet to be able to put into practice what they wanted to. But I think I also like increasingly how he's speaking. He's a lot more bullish. He talks about sort of not resting. Everything needs to be better. We need to be smarter. We need to be quicker. Even though we're sitting here going, God, we're so quick. Like we work so hard. All he's saying and the players are saying is it's not enough. And it won't be enough until we win something, which is the right mentality to have.
I think that helps with this mentality shift that we've seen. Like it all seems to tie in together. The way the team are now, like they're always finding like little faults. Like even with this game, you know, they'll have watched that back and they'll have found like where they've made mistakes and where they need to work on that for the next game. And that is what you need to do to be the best. You have got to like pull your performance apart basically and look how you can improve, even on games like this, because there is always room to improve. And yeah, I like the way Skinner's been talking actually recently at the end of games, like you say. He's always sort of looking on how they can improve basically, and I really, really like to see that.
So I was just going to add to what Charlie said there, because she was talking about how he's a bit more bullish and how Skinner's talking a lot more about what we need to learn. I just want to point out, he was saying this last year. He said it after every game. You know, the Spurs game when we conceded in the last minute. We know where the mistakes are. We know what we need to work on. He was saying all this, but people were getting on his back because we weren't getting the points. We weren't getting the goals. And now, we are getting the points. And it's just proving that he wasn't wrong. It's just you don't learn something in a week necessarily. It takes a bit longer to embed it and make it natural so that you don't make those mistakes again. And I think we're seeing the fruit of that labour this season, which is just absolutely blinking amazing.
I agree with that, and I also think as well the fact we've now got 4 even big winners now in the team in terms of the players that came back from the Euros, and obviously it's particularly the 3 that featured heavily in it, in Earps, Tooney and Russo. They want the big prize. They don't want to be going, oh, we'll get third, that's good for us. They want to be winning the league. They want to be competing in the Champions League because they're surrounded by players at England talking about the Champions League. They're talking to Millie Bright, they're talking to whoever at Chelsea and Arsenal, talking about the Champions League and everything else.
That's also, but it's like you said there, that's like what Mary said. I think the person doing the post-match interview said to her, how United are coming out and they're playing like this every week, and how do you keep it up? And she said, we're elite athletes and we're incredibly competitive and we want to win. So everyone's just right there. I just think it's brilliant. I think it's the best chance we've ever had. I just there's something just, and I might live to regret saying this, but something just about this season feels like it's going to go incredibly right, is how I feel.
And I think that's spot on as well. Talking about the kind of the atmosphere in and around the squad, you can see it. When the player, I know it helps when you're winning. I don't expect the players to be coming around if we got beat 6-0, for example. If we get smacked by Chelsea again, I don't expect the players to be. It always helps when you win, and I get that. But even you can follow it on from last season. The squad harmony seemed to be there. It's just the results weren't quite backing it up. So I don't think that's ever been in doubt. It just looks more obvious now because we're winning each week, so it looks a bit more. But let's not forget, we had if you tied the Conti Cup in, there was a lot of talk about, is this team, good enough, and the Skinner and the debate and everything else. It's not been as Barry, you said, enjoy the ride. It's not been a plain sailing season so far. So.
No, but the people that were coming on in the Conti Cup, he was giving, not the reserves, but, the second string potentially a run out. And that was the problem. There were so many changes happening that they didn't have that synchronicity that I was talking about earlier. They hadn't had the ability to work together and to get used to each other. It was, I've always said it, you don't make that many changes. If you make that many changes, you're setting yourself up for a fall. Sir Alex used to do it. He's the best manager I've ever met, but I still thought he was an absolute pillock for doing it. Because sat here on my sofa with absolutely 0 coaching degrees, I feel he was wrong. See, I can't even speak properly. I felt he was wrong, and I still maintain it to this day because we lost. So it's not sensible.
No, that's a fair point. Let's move on to player of the match then. Before we look to wrap this one up, I'll come to the poll in a second. So you've got about however long it takes for us to get around the 4 of us to get your vote in. But Charlie, who did you vote for and why? You're also on mute as well.
Fine, this is easy. I've given it to Hayley Ladd. Here's why. Goal. Check. Assist. Check. 9 ball recoveries. 8 out of 9 ground duels won. 7 out of 8 aerial duels won. Ridiculous successful pass rate. She was brilliant. She was the puppet master. She was pulling the strings. And I'm always gobsmacked by how many duels she wins because she's quite small. And if anyone knows what that feels like, it's me. But I thought she was incredible. So I've gone Hayley Ladd.
Jess, for yourself?
Yeah, I also want Hayley Ladd, and basically all the exact same reasons, all the stats there. I don't even need to say anything, do I really? I thought she was ace, and as someone else who's an absolute short arse, I'm a whopping 5'2". The fact that she can challenge for a header, I love that. And I was actually impressed in general. I know kind of brushed on it earlier, but like aerially, we were insane. Like Liverpool defenders, they just, I don't know if they just didn't try or if we just out-muscled them, but I thought we were fantastic in the air.
No, tend to agree with that, Barry.
Well, I think number 1. I don't think there's one of us on here that's about 5'3". So. What are you? You had your haircut now, remember?
I'm definitely above 5'3". I'm definitely. I
feel like you need
I'm
to
not much taller, but
yeah, but I was just going to say the nicest way you don't feel massive.
No, definitely not.
I stood next to you. I look up to you in other ways. So that's the first part. I think the second part for me, it was between 2. It was between Hayley Ladd and Ella Toone. They were the 2 that I was most impressed with. I think Toone had a few assists. And I thought was just doing really well. Interesting side note, Charlie, you might have noticed that when Ella Toone was brought off, she was brought off of Vilda Risa, so that's another vote for me and you that she's in the 10 role. So
Yeah.
it means we're winning now after that. So love that. Cheers, Mark, for your vote. I'm going to vote for Hayley Ladd because I think hands down that woman was the best one on the pitch. So therefore she wins it because that's the point of the award.
Yeah, and I'm going to make it a full house and make it Hayley Ladd as well. I think for the first time, is that the first time
Yeah.
we've all agreed on a player of the match here? Yeah, I think Honor
Oh,
was
in that
close.
case, Ella too.
I think Honor was close. Who else was on the podcast here had a good game. Tooney had a good game. Millie Turner was good. But yeah, for me, Hayley Ladd was just levels above. And I think everyone agrees, just looking at the pot, I'm pretty sure she did win. So Hayley Ladd on 50, Honor on 41, Lucy on 7, and Millie Turner just with the 2%. I'm glad she got a vote, though, because I was a bit worried that she wasn't going to have anyone for it then, but she did get one. So yes, Hayley Ladd is this week's player of the match. Nice one. Well, we shall wrap it up there.
Hold tight. We're not going to acknowledge this.
Connor said, here we go.
I presume he means Connor's hair is 5'3" and he isn't going for a hair score.
I was going to say, I hope it's not a hairline score, but there we are. You should have seen me on here a few weeks ago. Christ,
I feel like we should shout it out. It's lovely there, nice little shade down the side. Looking good, isn't it? I like admiring other people's hairstyles because I haven't had one since like 2007. So
I don't even know what to say to that. When are we next back on? Wednesday. So Barry will be back with a new host of fans. I don't know what the topic is this week. Barry will chat afterwards about what we're going to be discussing there, but I'm sure a couple of topics will come up. And also, by the way, congrats to Grace Clinton, who scored on her debut for Bristol City. Been in contact with a couple of Bristol fans who are eager to come on here, by the way, and want to talk about Grace. So that's something we will probably schedule in for this week. After that, then obviously we're back for it is Reading this weekend, isn't it?
Yes,
Sunday even. So we're back for the Reading preview on Friday. You can check out me and Barry, by the way, in 27 minutes because we're also live on the men's channel in 27 minutes time with Graham Falk, who you will have remembered from this channel a few weeks ago, talking all about Amad Diallo because he is absolutely tearing up the Championship with Sunderland. So it's good to speak to a Sunderland fan about it because you watch them week in, week out. So yeah, hop over to that in about 25 minutes time. Make sure you're following these guys on screen. I've just noticed Jess doesn't have a Twitter at that's just throwing me off. Usually people have their Twitter handle in the bottom.
I'll remember to chuck it in next time.
So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're liking the video and subscribing if you haven't already. And we shall see you in the next one.